Hello, my name is Lisa Bunker. I am going to read to you my story Petra and Pearl from this excellent middle grade anthology, This Is Our Rainbow, 16 stories of her, him, them, and us, published by Knopf and edited by Catherine Locke and Nicole Melleby. Petra and Pearl. I am really close to deciding something, but I just want to go over it all again one more time before I go downstairs, if I don't chicken out, and say things that, once I say them, I can never unsay. How far back do I need to go? One answer is all the way back to when I was born, because I can see more clearly all the time that I was born the way I am. So was Pearl. We are who we are, no matter what anyone else believes or says. But I guess, really, to explain the situation, last summer is far enough. What happened over the summer was that for a while we were so busy doing family summer things that we lost track of getting me haircuts. My hair kept getting longer, and I liked it. I would find myself in the bathroom looking at myself in the mirror, turning my head different ways and tilting it back so that my hair touched my shoulders and the back of my neck. It felt really good to me. Eventually, Mom started talking about how it was high time we went to the barber, and I put her off all the different ways I could think of. I did distractions and jokes. When she said, "But it's getting so long," I said, "What if I like it?" Which was not the same as actually saying I liked it, but I didn't feel ready to actually say that out loud. One day, when she said that for sure this was the day we were going to do it, I even pretended to be sick. Then she forgot about trying again, and by the end of the summer, my hair was touching my shoulders and the back of my neck without me tilting my head back, and I liked it more and more. The day that it was mostly long enough to pull back with a hair tie and make a stubby little ponytail, I cried, all alone in the bathroom with the door locked. And by then, I was beginning to understand why. The reason that I was beginning to understand why was Pearl. Pearl and I met last year. We both wrote fanfic on the same site about the same two characters in the same show, Kimazui, only the best anime program no one has ever heard of in the world. We did beta reads of each other's stories, and that led to a video chat, which led to another, until it was a regular thing, once a week on Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon for me, late Sunday night for her. Because she lives in England, which is 5 hours ahead of us. And pretty soon, since one of the characters we both wrote about was a trans girl, and since we had both signed on to the fanfic site with girl names, we started talking around the edges of the idea of transness. And for a while, neither of us actually said the words, but the idea was in the air. We had intense discussions about our trans characters. We had long conversations about theory, with both of us being careful to only talk about people in general, not ourselves in particular. And then, toward the end of the summer, she did say the words. I remember that conversation pretty much exactly. "Petra, are you ready for my grand important announcement?" she said, out of nowhere. Pearl's default setting is total drama. Every little thing that happens, she describes it like it's either the best thing ever or the end of the world. "You have a big announcement?" "Yes, I do." "Okay, tell me." "Drumroll, please. I've realized that I am transgender, and I've decided that as soon as I can, I'm going to be Pearl in my regular life, not just here with you." "Wow, that's totally amazing. I'm so proud of you," I said. As soon as the words came out of my mouth, I thought they sounded weird, but she liked it. "Thank you," she whispered and ducked her head, which is what she does when she's being bashful. "What about your parents? From what you've told me about them, they might not react very well." I said, "As soon as I can. I don't know yet when that might be." "Well, I'm honored that you told me first. And I think you're awesome and beautiful." She ducked her head again. "Thank you very much," she said. Then there was a silence that felt like my chance to say the words too, but I couldn't. I wasn't sure yet, or not ready, or something. So it was awkward for a second, but we got past it by going back to talking about theory. Pearl does a lot of reading online, and she has taught me all sorts of stuff about patriarchy and privilege and transphobia, all these amazing new words. When I told her she was beautiful, it was not in an "I want to date you" way, just in a being a good friend way. Pearl is my friend. Actually, right now, she is my only real friend. I mean, I have friends, but this weird gap has opened up between us because this thing is happening and none of them know about it. And I guess they can't be super close friends because when I pulled away, no one asked why. They just let me go off alone. So for a while now, Pearl has been the only one I can talk to. The other thing that happened near the end of the summer was the fight I had with my dad. The thing about my dad is he's sure he's right about everything all the time. It's in how he holds his face, and it comes out in his voice, too. I mean, besides what he says, obviously. My point is, it's not just his words, it's how he says them. Instead of asking, he tells. Or assumes. That's how it went when it came time to pick classes for this year. We were talking about how school was beginning again soon, and he was going on about how cool it was that I would be taking shop from Mr. Sullivan, who was a friend of his, and he wasn't saying if, he was saying when. Which I suppose makes sense in a way, because they're friends, and because Dad builds houses for a living, so there's always been this idea that I was going to learn everything I could about building things. But he must have seen something of what I was feeling on my face, because he stopped in the middle of a sentence and said, "What? What's the matter?" That was hard to answer, and not just because he's always hard to answer. It was because I hadn't had a chance yet to put my thoughts into words. It was just the instant strong feeling of not wanting to take shop. Especially from Mr. Sullivan, who is also a PE teacher and who likes his boys all macho and tough like him. I had him for PE last year, and that was no fun, I can tell you. I'm tall, taller than I'd like to be, but I'm not an athlete, and I guess even before I started growing my hair long, I seemed kind of girlish to people like him. He never said anything in actual words, but his voice always had this sound of disgust or sarcasm in it, and when some of his boys picked on me, he made sure not to notice. Anyway, there I was with my mouth open and my face feeling hot, and Dad said, "Of course you're taking shop. What else could you possibly take?" Art, I thought, but didn't say. I also didn't say, "And I want to be a techie again for the fall play." I really liked that. Returning students sometimes get to do set design, and Mrs. Johnson is so much nicer to be around. "It's not an open question," Dad said. "You're taking shop and you're going to like it." Mom made a little sound when he said that, but he gave her one of his I know everything looks, and she bowed her head and didn't make any more sounds. She always caves when his face goes hard like that. I do too. At least, I always have until now. Anyway, I ended up in shop, no surprise there, and it took about 3 seconds for Trent and Mike and those guys to start picking on me. "Nice haircut, loser," Trent said as soon as he saw me. "You look like a girl." Which was weird to hear coming from him because I was starting to feel more and more sure that I was a girl. Am a girl. But I couldn't say that to him. So I just kept my head down and did my best to ignore them, the way I always do. Then they threw wood chips at me, and Mike dumped sawdust in my hair, and of course Mr. Sullivan pretended not to notice. And there was no one in the class I liked or who liked me, even a little. No one who might have said something. So that's how it has been ever since. Oh, and one more thing. They decided to give me a girl name. They started calling me Sally. With their voices all sarcastic, of course. At first it was just in shop class, but then it started spreading around school. People started pulling on my ponytail, too. It has been a tough year for that kind of stupid stuff every day. I didn't actually mind them giving me a girl name. I was just annoyed because it wasn't the name I wanted. Not that I could say that out loud, either. Anyway, like I said, Pearl and I usually talk on Sundays, but I keep the app open, and last week on Tuesday night, I got a surprise call from her. It was right at my bedtime, so it was the middle of the night for her, and when her screen came up, I could see that her whole room was dark, except for one little desk lamp with its cone turned towards the wall. The video of her face was all grainy and crawly, the way it gets when there isn't enough light, but she also looked zombie-faced too because of the white light from her screen. And she whispered so low I could hardly hear her, and what she said was, "Oh, thank God you're there." "Hey, Pearl, what's going on?" "My life is over." Like I said before, it's all drama all the time with Pearl, so I stayed calm and used one of the little phrases I figured out to invite her to talk more. That's what friends do, right? "Yeah? What's up?" "I was playing with my sister's clothes, you know, and my sister walked in on me because I guess I forgot to lock the door, and she told my mom, and my mom told my dad, and there was a horrible row." "Whoa," I said. But that's not all. When my dad was shouting at me, calling me all these horrible names, all of a sudden I got super mad and I shouted back at him. And what I shouted was that I'm trans and I want to be called Pearl from now on. Whoa, I said. I knew from other talks since she came out to me that she had been planning to wait maybe a long time before coming out to her family. They're really conservative. Also, they're pretty poor and her dad just lost his job, so things look bad for the whole family. This was not the best time to spring a big surprise on them like that. And now I'm locked in my room and can hear my dad still shouting and I don't know what they're going to do and I'm afraid. Pearl started to cry. Hearing her talk about how her dad was being, of course it made me imagine how my dad might react if I told him the same thing, and I started to shake. But by now my friend was sobbing, so I tried my hardest to push away my own fear and just keep talking to her. We went back and forth for a while, her imagining the horrible things that might happen and me trying to calm her down and keep her company. After a while we started going over stuff for the second time, and it had gotten late, so I said as gently as I could that it was time for me to go to sleep. "Are you going to be okay?" I asked her, and she looked at me with tears on her cheeks and said, "I don't know," and ended the call. No, thanks for talking. No, bye. Just boom, done. So I went to sleep and woke up again and went to school, and I kept thinking about that call and worrying about my friend. That night I tried to call her. No answer. It went on like that for the rest of the week. No answer, no answer. And I didn't have any other way to get in touch with her, so I started to get really worried. Even on Sunday night, no answer, and I couldn't talk about it with anyone. I had to carry around this horrible feeling that maybe my secret friend in England was in terrible trouble, and I couldn't find anything out, and I couldn't help. It sucked so bad. Then, this morning in shop, Trent came over and pushed my birdhouse onto the floor so that it broke, and then he said, real mean, "You gonna cry now, Sally?" I looked over at Mr. Sullivan and he just looked back at me like, "I'm not gonna help you at all." Then I had this weird idea that I was seeing my father's head on Mr. Sullivan's body, and I guess I snapped because these words just started pouring out of me. Words I learned from Pearl: bigot, sexist, toxic masculinity. I chewed out my teacher in front of the whole class. At first, Mr. Sullivan looked puzzled, then surprised. Then his face went stone hard, and when I saw that, I suddenly thought, what in heaven's name am I doing? That's another thing Pearl says, what in heaven's name? So then I blushed really hard and stopped in the middle of a sentence, and everyone was staring, and Trent and Mike and those guys were laughing, and I just wanted to sink down through the floor and disappear. Then Mr. Sullivan sent me to see Ms. Cooper, and I got suspended. So now I'm home in my room, waiting for my dad to come home. I feel embarrassed and scared, but there's another thing too, a kind of wild excitement, like this feeling you get when you're standing in line waiting to ride a humongous roller coaster. All these powerful feelings all at once. It's super uncomfortable. Then one more thing happened just a couple of minutes ago. My computer chimed and it was Pearl. Of course I clicked right away, and there she was with a different room behind her. "Thank God," I said. "I am so glad to see you. Are you okay?" I was expecting the usual drama, but she seemed weirdly calm. Calm, but sad. "Petra, it has been a horrible time," she said, "but I'm a little better now." "What happened?" "My dad said he was going to kick me out of the house." "Oh, Pearl, no!" "If I didn't take it back, but I said I couldn't take it back." "So did he kick you out?" "Almost. My mom begged him not to do anything rash, and they locked me in my room again while they argued some more, and finally they decided to send me to stay with my granny in Leeds until they could figure out what to do." "You mean like you live there now?" She sighed and wiped at the corner of one eye with the heel of her hand. "I don't know. I don't think so." "And have they decided what they're going to do?" "No." She stared off to the side for a second, then looked back at me. "The last I heard, my granny said my mom called and they were still trying to figure it out." She wiped her eye again. "At least no one is shouting anymore, and my granny is pretty okay for an old person. They told her why they had asked her to take me, but she didn't say anything. She just did this tut-tut thing she does. Her house smells funny, and I don't like her food all that much, but at least I feel almost safe." That sounds about as good as it could be, considering the circumstances, I said, and Pearl nodded. There was a silence. Then I said, I got suspended from school today. Really? Why? So then I told her the story about snapping at Mr. Sullivan, and when I got to the part about chewing him out, she laughed. I was happy to hear that because I figured if she could laugh, it meant she was really feeling better. That's cracking. Good on you, she said. Thanks, I said. I felt better hearing her say that. I felt like, I really do have someone on my side. Whatever is about to happen next, I need to remember that. Petra, I have to go, Pearl said. But before I do, I want to thank you. I was surprised by that and said, thank me? For what? It was really bad that first night. I thought I was going to get kicked out, and I felt like maybe I should run away first. But then when I called you, you were there, and you listened, and I felt a little better because it helped me remember that I'm not alone in the world. I've got you. You're a true friend, so thank you for being there when I needed someone. I was just thinking the exact same thing, I said, half laughing, half crying. She was emotional too, and for a second we just sat there grinning at each other and wiping our eyes. Then we both said, okay, good luck, hang in there, yeah, you too, and ended the call. Since then, I've been sitting here thinking, and what I've been thinking is, I've been feeling sorry for myself and afraid to talk to my parents, especially my dad. But you know what? Compared to Pearl, compared to a lot of people, I have it easy. My parents both have jobs, and we have, I don't know about plenty of money, but I feel like we have enough, which is more than it sounds like Pearl can say. And my dad can be so stubborn sometimes, so sure that he's right, but I don't think he would kick me out of the house. At least, I hope not. Anyway, it doesn't matter because I know now. I know who I am, and it's time to say. I didn't put much thought at all into my fanfic name. When I signed on to the site for the first time, I had just watched a movie with a character named Petra in it, and I liked it, so I used it. I've gotten used to it now, though, and there's one person in the world, Pearl, who has never known me by any other name. So that's who I am. I'm Petra. When my dad gets home, there's going to be a talk, and I'm going to let my parents say whatever they think they have to say, and when it's my turn, I'm going to say, Mom, Dad, I have 2 things I need to tell you. And they're going to say, what are the 2 things? And I'm going to say, the first one is, I'm dropping shop.